Level 0. The pond is quiet. A ripple, a bubble, then stillness. By morning, hundreds of fish float belly up, not from poison, not from disease, but from breathlessness. When temperatures rise and algae bloom, oxygen plummets. In lakes and ponds, this becomes a slow suffocation. Fish gasp at the surface, then sink in silence. No warning sirens, just heat and stillness. They call it hypoxia. And it happens more than we see. Fertilizer runoff fuels algae, and algae steals oxygen. When the bloom fades, it leaves a dead zone behind. It's not apocalyptic, not yet, but it's the lowest rung on a ladder that climbs towards something worse. Clearing excess plant life and preventing nutrient runoff from farms can help restore the natural balance and reduce routine fish kills. Level 1. The sea is vast, but sound travels faster in water than in air. Deep below, a signal pulses. Not for whales, not for life. For submarines, it's sonar, military, or corporate. Loud, low, and disorienting. To a whale, it feels like thunder inside the skull. A pod veers off course, beaches itself on rocky shallows. Some bleed internally, others are just lost. Dying of dehydration on land they were never meant to touch. In the Bahamas, 2,000 multiple beaked whales beached after naval tests. Autopsies showed lesions in the brain and inner ear. The sea didn't change. The humans did. Restricting naval sonar and seismic testing during whale migration windows has already shown measurable reductions in mass strandings. Level 2. A town wakes to horror. Thousands of blackbirds, fallen mid-flight, wings twisted, necks broken. They didn't freeze. They didn't starve. They flew into buildings, trees, each other. It was New Year's Eve. Fireworks cracked through the sky, and the flock panicked. Birds don't fly alone. They swarm, a murmuration, a blur. When one veers, the rest follow. And when chaos hits, they collide. It's not poison, it's confusion. Disorientation in midair, light, noise. Disruption. In Arkansas, 2010, over 5,000 red-winged blackbirds died in under 10 minutes. Adjusting firework displays away from key roosting zones during migration and breeding seasons can prevent panic-induced aerial collisions. Level 3. The ocean flashes red, not blood, algae. A red tide, microscopic but monstrous, dinoflagellates blooming in the millions. Beautiful under a microscope, toxic in real life. Fish suffocate, dolphins seize. Sea turtles roll onto beaches, confused and dying. The poison is subtle, neurotoxins that interrupt signals between brain and body. Humans feel it too, coughing, stinging eyes. But we can leave the beach. The animals can't. In Florida, red tides now last longer than they used to. Hotter water feeds them, so do nutrients flush downriver. And when the winds blow inland, dead fish pile high on the sand. Improving wastewater treatment and reducing agricultural runoff can significantly reduce the frequency and severity of coastal harmful algal blooms. Level 4. Rainfalls, soft at first, then cold, then something stranger. Hundreds of bats drop from the trees. Alive one moment, stiff the next. Heat-adapted species don't survive sudden cold. Their metabolism can't adjust. They freeze mid-cling or fall mid-flight. In Australia's tropical northeast, a freak cold snap once killed tens of thousands of spectacled flying foxes in a single night. Elsewhere, it's the opposite. Heat waves in India melted baby bats right off their mothers. They die clutching branches, overheating, dehydrating. No wind, no shade, no mercy. It's not disease, it's the weather, changing too fast, swinging too wide. Installing artificial bat shelters with ventilation and access to water helps stabilize vulnerable colonies during temperature extremes. Level 5. The beach sparkles. But it's not sand, it's scales. Hundreds of sardines, anchovies, and mackerel wash ashore. They come in waves, twitching, gasping, then still. And they're not alone. Squid coil into unnatural shapes. Crabs flail on their backs. Stingrays lie flat, suffocating in the open air. It's not oil, not poison. It's something subtler, something slower. The water itself turned against them. This is an anoxic event, when oxygen disappears from the sea. A dead zone. It starts with runoff. Farms send nitrogen and phosphorus into rivers. Rivers feed the sea. and the sea blooms with algae. But what blooms must rot, and as algae decay, they suck up every last molecule of oxygen. Fish can swim away, but not fast enough, not far enough. Currents trap them, and the sea becomes a coffin. In Chile, 2016, 40,000 tons of dead fish washed ashore. In California, red tides have killed thousands of anchovies and sardines in a single day. Even scavengers drown trying to feast. The ocean doesn't rage, it chokes. Shifting to precision agriculture, restoring wetlands, and enforcing stricter wastewater regulations helps reduce nutrient spillover and shrink expanding dead zones before they turn entire coastlines into aquatic graveyards. Level 6. Snow falls in the plains. Soft at first, then thicker, then ice, then more snow. What was beautiful turns lethal, a white tomb across the steppe. The antelope feel it first. They dig, scratch, sniff, but the grass is sealed under crusted ice, impenetrable. Their fat reserves shrink. Their movement slows. They huddle for warmth, but the cold seeps in anyway. Then come the birds, carcasses scattered in the wind, and the wolves, starving, howling, picking at frozen flesh. Winter kill, not from disease, not from predators, from weather alone, and not just any winter, a dzud, a Mongolian term for the deadly 1-2 punch. Drought in summer, deep freeze in winter. Without summer grass, there's no fat. Without warmth, there's no escape. In 2010, over 8 million livestock died across Mongolia. Herders lost generations of animals. Some never recovered. Some vanished from the land entirely. This isn't just about cold. It's about volatility. Winters that arrive suddenly. Storms that freeze and lock the land. Animals that can't migrate in time. Humans who can't afford to feed them. Emergency hay reserves, coordinated veterinary response teams, and real-time weather alerts can prevent a harsh season from becoming a death sentence. Level 7. The sky is black at noon. A shadow moves across the land, thick, writhing, alive. It hums, it crackles, it eats. Locusts. They descend like a fog. Wings thrum like thunder. And in hours, fields vanish. Green becomes dust. Rice, wheat, sorghum, gone. It's not just crop loss, it's starvation in slow motion. These insects don't die gently, they die en masse. After the feast ends, the swarm collapses. Their hunger turns inward, they cannibalize each other, then rot in piles. In 2020, locusts swept across the Horn of Africa, the Middle East and South Asia, billions strong. Drones captured the swarm as it blotted out the sun. Farmers swung shovels in futility. Children ran, screaming through clouds of insects. But this is more than a farm problem. Wild herbivores starve when their grazing is gone. Birds and predators die when their prey disappears. Entire ecosystems sag under the weight of locust destruction. And when they die, they leave nothing but decay. No recovery, no renewal, just silence. Advanced drone surveillance, rapid response pesticide teams, and early warning meteorological models are now crucial in stopping outbreaks before they reach catastrophic, continent-swallowing scale. Level 8. They move together, in perfect rhythm, thousands of starlings swirling in a murmuration. Then, chaos. In a split second, the flock plummets. Birds crash into rooftops, pavement, windows. No predators, no poison. Just a sky full of feathers and silence. This isn't a hunt, it's panic. A single spark, too loud, too bright, too fast, rips through their collective mind. Triggered by sudden noise, maybe a sonic boom, maybe illegal fireworks, or pulses of light, searchlights, lasers, fireworks exploding too close. Even shifts in air pressure, like shockwaves from explosions or sudden weather events, can shatter their formation. Because flocking isn't just behavior, it's survival. When the signal to turn becomes a signal to flee and the space to escape is too tight, flight becomes freefall. In Rome, 2021, hundreds of birds, mostly starlings, fell dead after midnight fireworks shattered their internal compasses. Necropsies found them with shattered organs and broken beaks, not disease, but impact trauma. In Arkansas, 2010, over 5,000 red-winged blackbirds rained from the sky on New Year's Eve. The culprit, a series of loud, disorienting explosions. These weren't isolated mistakes, They were patterns, playing out in cities around the world. Startled birds often fly into buildings, wires, or each other. Their hearts race past their limits. Their wings collapse under exhaustion, and their fall is sudden. Urban environments become gauntlets, glass windows, flashing billboards, deafening echoes, and flocking, once a survival gift, becomes their downfall. Switching to low-noise firework alternatives, regulating nighttime disturbances during migration, and creating urban safe flight zones could keep skyborne mass deaths from becoming a seasonal norm. Level 9. It starts in one lake, then another, then dozens. Fish turn belly up, not from poison, not from parasites, but from the cold, and not just cold. Flash freeze. A sudden drop in temperature flips aquatic ecosystems upside down. Oxygen solubility crashes. Ice forms too quickly for escape. Gill movement slows, then stops. Species adapted to warmth panic. Their enzymes don't work fast enough. Their metabolism stalls. Their survival instincts lag behind the storm. In Texas, 2021, a brutal winter storm shocked the Gulf Coast. Over 3.8 million fish died in under a week. It wasn't just the temperature, it was how fast it dropped. Tarpon, snook, and other warm water species froze mid-swim. In Florida, 2010, a similar cold snap killed off vast numbers of manatees and sea turtles. Some floated helplessly, suffering cold stun. Others drowned, unable to move their flippers or find warm water pockets. Even alligators, a species evolved to endure ice, can be trapped in snorkel position, their snouts poking through the ice as they slip into metabolic stasis. But not all survive. These are not slow extinctions, they're sudden resets, years of population recovery, wiped out by a single temperature spike or drop. And climate change doesn't just mean warming, it means instability, more frequent cold snaps, more violent swings, and fewer chances to adapt. Adding thermal refugees, restricting fishing after freezes, and restoring wetland buffer zones can help preserve fragile aquatic populations when the weather flips faster than they can flee. Level 10. It drips in silence, invisible, persistent. Mercury, lead, PCB, DDT, chemicals we made, poured, forgot, and now they return. Up the food chain, small fish accumulate micrograms, larger fish eat them, then seabirds, seals, and whales, until every bite carries a dose of history. History in the form of biomagnification. It's not poisoning, it's inheritance. In the Pacific Northwest, resident killer whales carry the highest PCB levels of any marine mammals on Earth. Though PCBs were banned in the 1970s, they live on in sediments and in the whale's blubber. Mothers pass the toxins to their calves through breast milk. Some calves die before reaching their first year. In Argentina, 2016, dozens of Andean condors were found dead after feeding on carcasses laced with banned pesticides. The poisons weren't meant for them, but they were the last to touch the chain. Flamingos in Kenya have shown signs of reproductive decline tied to pesticide runoff from flower farms. River otters in the UK tested positive for antidepressants, waste from human use leaking into rivers and streams. This isn't about villainy, it's about negligence, a long legacy of chemical use without accountability. Even today, microplastics and pharmaceutical traces appear in the blood of wild animals. Not in cities, but in the wildest corners of Earth. The victims don't understand what's killing them, but they carry it, pass it down, die with it in their blood. Stricter bans, industrial cleanup efforts, and global tracking of persistent pollutants are essential to keep today's waste from becoming tomorrow's extinction event. Level 11. They gather by the thousands. Wildebeest, gazelles, elephants. It looks like migration, but it's more desperate than that. The river is shrinking. Water holes are gone. Heat waves stretch for months, and then collapse. The grass disappears, then the trees, then the shade, then the animals. Mass drought isn't a single day. It's months of thirst, fevered breathing, scorched hooves. In Botswana, 2019, over 100 elephants dropped dead near dry water holes. Birds abandoned nests. Hippos flailed in mud that used to be lakes. This isn't just about thirst. It's about tipping points. Cattle overgraze, humans overpump, the land gives less, and the climate gives nothing. What's left is death, quiet, dusty, unphotogenic. Building solar-powered boreholes, enforcing grazing rotation laws, and restoring savanna vegetation can slow the creep of drought before it empties entire ecosystems. Level 12. The jungle echoes with coughs. Then silence. Bats drop from their roosts. Primates stumble. Birds lie still under the canopy. The virus doesn't discriminate. Ebola in chimpanzees, Hendra in horses, avian flu in swans, rinderpest in buffalo, zoonotic diseases, pathogens that jump from animals, sometimes to us. In 1994, Hendra virus killed dozens of horses and a few humans. In 2001, foot and mouth disease culled millions of livestock across the UK. And avian flu keeps mutating, sweeping through poultry farms and killing wild flocks in the process. Sometimes it's a spillover from nature. Other times it's our farms creating incubators. High density, low regulation, fast mutation, and when it jumps back into the wild, the animals don't stand a chance. Carcasses pile up faster than anyone can test them. Monitoring wildlife health like human public health, funding rapid response veterinary teams, and redesigning farm wildlife boundaries can turn back outbreaks before they reshape entire ecosystems. Level 13. The forest is quiet. Too quiet. Not a bird call, not a rustle, only stillness. And then, from the treetops, they begin to fall. Bats. By the thousands. Dropping mid-flight like leaves in a windless fall. They twitch, seize, then stop. In Australia's Queensland region, the skies turned into death traps. Temperatures soared above 45 degrees Celsius, 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and bats couldn't cool down. Unlike most mammals, bats don't sweat. They pant, they flap, they seek shade. But in extreme heat, their tiny bodies shut down, organs cooking inside living flesh. In 2014, over 100,000 bats died in a single day. Pups fell before they could fly. Adults fell clutching tree branches. The trees beneath became mass graves. The stench spread for miles. It wasn't disease. It wasn't poison. It was heat. And not just bats. Flying foxes, kangaroos, birds, even livestock collapsed in the open sun. Mass die-offs from heat waves are becoming more common, and not just in Australia. In 2021, British Columbia experienced a heat dome. Shellfish cooked in their shells. Birds dropped mid-flight. Deer wandered into towns, foaming at the mouth. When the air itself becomes fatal, flight doesn't help. Speed doesn't matter. Size doesn't save you. Climate adaptation strategies, like artificial roosts with cooling systems and expanded wildlife corridors, can reduce casualties, but without global temperature mitigation, these silent skyfalls may only worsen. Level 14. It starts at sea. A strange glint on the water, then a body, then a dozen, then hundreds. Whales, dolphins, porpoises, washed ashore with blood in their ears. Jawbones shattered, organs ruptured. They weren't hunted, they weren't sick, they were disoriented, panicked into beaching themselves. The culprit? Sonar. High-intensity naval sonar, used by submarines and military ships, sends sound waves through the ocean like seismic hammers. What we hear as a ping, marine life hears as trauma. Whales depend on echolocation to navigate. Their brains are wired for sound. When sonar pulses hit, they panic, rising too fast, bleeding internally, losing control. In 2000, the Bahamas saw 17 whales beach within hours of a naval exercise. In 2003, a mass stranding in the Canary Islands was directly linked to mid-frequency sonar. The evidence wasn't just circumstantial, it was anatomical. Sonar doesn't just confuse, it kills. And as global tensions rise, more militaries deploy sonar mapping, sometimes near protected migration routes, sometimes without notice. Sound travels 4 times faster underwater, but the shockwaves it leaves behind last for generations, quieting the oceans through international sonar regulations, rerouting military testing zones, and enforcing marine sanctuaries unnecessary to protect creatures who cannot run from sound, but are dying because of it. The ocean doesn't scream, the skies don't wail, but when animals die in silence, by the millions, we should be listening. Because their deaths are not just accidents, they're signals. And the question is, will we hear them in time? If this made you think, share it with someone who needs to know. Like, subscribe, and follow, because the next collapse may not come with a warning.